Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my March book review, so my book of the month, and this one is really exciting one for me because I've been waiting for this book to come out for a really long time, and it finally did a couple of weeks ago, I think about a month ago, and I got it right away, and it took me some time to get through it just because I was on vacation in California and then just been super busy, but I sat down and read the last half all in just one sitting, and I loved it. So I'm gonna tell you guys what book I'm talking about. This is the book right here. It is I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. Some of you may be familiar with this if you're into true crime or the Golden State Killer, or as he's known, the East Area Rapist, and the original Night Stalker. So I'm going to tell you more about it, but I just wanted to kind of talk about some other things first, just because this isn't just your typical book review. It's not a work of fiction. It's like real true crime. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I got interested in the actual like crime part of the specific book. So I've known about the East Area Rapist, original Night Stalker, for a while before the book came out, which was why I was waiting for this book to come out because I was really excited about it. But I first heard about it through different murder podcasts that I listened to, also different like true crime shows on TV. So I was familiar with the crime, the suspect, I guess, the moniker for the East Area Rapist and all of that. So my interest in it was peaked before the book came out. So that's kind of the background there as to how I got interested in reading the book. So I wanted to tell you first about the author, and I'm actually just going to read to you what it says here in the book about her, and then try to tell you a little bit more. So her name is Michelle McNamara. She was born in 1970, and she actually passed away before she could finish the book in 2016. I think that was April 21st of 2016. So almost 2 years now. So she was the author of the website True Crime Diary, and she earned an MFA, so Master's in Fine Arts in Fiction Writing from the University of Minnesota, and she had sold television pilots to ABC and Fox and a screenplay to Paramount. She also worked as a consultant for Dateline NBC, and she lived in Los Angeles and is survived by her husband, Patton Oswalt, and their daughter, Alice. So I didn't really know who she actually was. I never read her true crime diary, surprisingly, and all my love of true crime, murder, everything, I never heard of that, which bums me out. But I believe it's still running. I actually haven't checked it out yet to this day, but I think it's a still running website. But when she passed away, and I'll actually get into the questions that I usually ask in my book reviews because that'll kind of lead into what I wanted to talk about anyway. So usually when I do my book reviews, there are 5 questions that I ask myself, and I answer those questions about the book. So the first question is, how did you find out about this book? So like I said, I had already had an interest. I already knew about the murders, the rapes, all of that story I already knew. But the book specifically, I think I found out about it right after Michelle died, which was April 21st of 16, as I mentioned. And I remember reading about it because it was online everywhere that she had passed away. Patton Oswalt, her husband, is a pretty famous comedian, actor. I've actually met him before, really sweet guy. So I follow his stuff, and so it came up. And that's when I saw that she had the True Crime Diary website or blog, and that she was working on a book before she died. And when I found out it was about the East Area Rapist, that just made me want to read it even more, and I was just waiting for it to come out. So she actually, the book, the full title is I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer. So she actually dubbed that name the Golden State Killer. Others know him as East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker. So she coined that name for him. That's actually the first time I had heard it, was when she passed away. I heard that she had been writing this book. So I get really excited about reading it and waiting for it to come out. So that's kind of how I found out about the book. So who do you think would enjoy this book is the second question. So anybody who loves true crime or is familiar with the East Area Rapist would enjoy reading this book. I think that really, if you're not in either of those categories, if you're not into true crime or you're not familiar with the story, you probably wouldn't have a big interest in reading it, because it doesn't read like a novel. It reads, there's a lot of information, there's just information overload. So it talks about the different locations, the different people, the victims, the investigators, right? All the little details. So if you're not into true crime or you're not familiar with it, you might not be interested. But if you are, you're really gonna love this book. So I definitely will tell you more about why I recommend it. But definitely, if you're familiar with it or if you like true crime, you would enjoy it. So the third question is, will you tell us something about the book? So I'm going to go more into detail than I have in the past, especially because I'm familiar with this. So bear with me. But I'm going to show you some things in the book. First I want to talk about the cover. I really love the cover of this book. I love hardcover books. I usually take off the sleeves when I'm reading them because I don't want to ruin the sleeves. So I didn't keep this on while I was reading it, but I wanted to show you just how pretty the cover is. Maybe pretty is not the right word. It's really black and dark, but to me it just really sets the mood of reading this book. And then this awesome like highlighter yellow in the back. So I'm going to take the sleeve off. And it just looks like this. Okay, so I wanted to show you, the book has photos, has some maps, which is kind of cool. So this right here, you can see, is a map that kind of breaks down the different locations of where the East Area Rapist, Golden State Killer, whatever you want to call him, the different places that he went. Not sure how well you can see that. And it tells you the dates, the locations, so I really like that. It also has victims. Some of them are pseudonyms. It has the rape victims, the murder victims. Also mentions some murder victims that were never linked to him officially. But those are in there as well. And then it also has a list of the investigators. So if you're familiar with this, you're probably familiar with these names. And then it does have a foreword, an introduction by Gillian Flynn, and an afterword by Patton Oswalt. So wanted to kind of let you know how it broke up by parts. So there's a part 1, a part 2, and a part 3. It just has a part 1, part 2, part 3, and so it kind of designates it by the black pages. So in the part 1, it goes over the years, the locations, the murders, what happened, and then they've kind of do it in chronological order, but The crimes were committed from June of 1976 through July of 1979. And then there was a 3-month break, and then October 1979 till May of 1986. So those were the crimes occurred during that time. And then what it does is, just like I said, it tells you about the victims, the things that happened, the detectives, the things they found, the patterns. They did save some pages. So the name of the book is I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and she got that from something that he said to one of his victims, one of the, I think it was the actually first victim maybe, but he told her, make one move and you'll be silent forever and I'll be gone in the dark. So that's kind of cool that she pulled that from what he said. So it looks like there were 6 murders that were tied to him, but I believe there were over 50 rapes. So assaults on 50 women across 7 counties. So from Northern California to Central California to Southern California. And actually the ones in Southern California weren't linked to him until much later. Once the DNA profiling became more advanced, they were able to link him to those crimes as well. So one of the monikers, so East Area Rapist was the original moniker that they gave him because that's where he was committing these rapes, was in the East area of Sacramento. So Rancho Cordova, if you're not familiar, I actually lived in that area for a little while. So I'm pretty familiar with the area, but it's just right outside of Sacramento, very suburban, and that's where most of his crimes take place and where they believe he is originally from. So talked about that, and then I'm not going to go over all the different crimes, some of the things that he did. They did, from all of those crimes that he committed, decipher a couple of things. So he did a lot of what they called patrolling. So he would stake out his victims. Sometimes it seemed for a long time he knew personal things about them, stuff that no normal person would know. And he did leave several points of exit. So he never came in and went out the same way. He jumped fences. So they believe that he was athletic. He was 5'10", I believe 5'11", white male. The hair color varied, blonde, dark hair. They said that he had a small penis, what his victim said. So that's one of the main things that they talk about. He never hurt children if they were in the home. He did flashlight, like a flashlight in the victim's faces when he went into the room. Usually he would make the female tie up. So in the beginning, the crimes started attacking females that were home alone. And then they don't really talk about it from what I remember a lot in the book, but from the podcast and other things that I listened to about the crime, they did say that there was a town hall at a school where all the citizens were there concerned, and someone had mentioned that he doesn't attack women who are home with men. And pretty quickly after that, he started attacking couples with the men present. So I believe actually the person at the meeting, at least from what I remember from one of my podcasts that I listened to, said that he was one of the victims, the guy who spoke out and said that he didn't attack women that had men at home. So it was just so interesting to see the dynamic change between just women at home alone and then women with their husbands. So he would have usually the woman tie up the husband, and then he would tie the woman up. And all the times he would balance plates or something on the man's back so that so he would take the woman in the living room and he would leave the man in the room, and he put plates on their back or something so that if he tried to move, he would hear whatever the movement was and he would threaten to kill the woman that he had in the living room. So he would rape the woman. So he usually turned down the thermostat so that he could, or like the air conditioning so he could hear better. He would have the TV on but at a low volume, but cover it so that the neighbors wouldn't see that there were random lights on in the house, but so the victim wouldn't be able to really hear his voice or anything really at all. So a lot of the things that he did too is he would leave them tied up after he was done raping them, and then he would ransack the home. He would eat their food. He would pretend to leave. He would be quiet for several minutes. The victim would think that he had left and then realize that he was still there once they relaxed and tried to move. So he would also take things, sometimes things of value, but a lot of the time just random things. He would leave them at other crime scenes and bring things from other crime scenes to his other crime scenes. So it was very interesting reading all the different things that he did and all the different theories as to what he did for work or where he lived. So I feel like I said a lot about that. So the first part of the book talks about all the crimes and everything. The second part is present day. So it's Michelle visiting these different locations with detectives that worked on the case, investigators, anyone that she could really talk to that would kind of help her understand more about the case than what she already knew, which was a lot. So they go to different areas in the East Bay. So he attacked in Sacramento, and then he went down to the East Bay, Contra Costa County, then made his way down to the Visalia murders. I think they said that it hadn't really been linked to him. I don't remember in the book if it said that it had been linked. But then Santa Barbara, and then Ventura, and then Orange County, Irvine. So he was in a lot of different areas, but so she visits a lot of those areas to talk to people, kind of go to some of the crime sites and kind of just really see it and get a better idea of what may have happened, where he came from, things like that. So during that part, they talk about different suspects that they've had in the past and how they were eliminated. They do talk about what they believe he did for work. So some of the theories that they had was he could have been in the Air Force, military in that Sacramento area. They did have bases there, and some of his movements, some of his activity was very military-like. And then construction worker was one of the other ideas that was explored, because a lot of the crime scenes were near construction work, and he parked his car, they believe, near a lot of those construction areas because cars coming and going, no one really looks into that. There's a lot of tire tracks, things like that. And then there was a real estate angle. A lot of the victims lived near open houses or were even in their own home, which at the time was an open house. So that was one of the areas that were explored. And they also looked at the school schedule with Sacramento State and saw that none of the crimes happened during holidays, I believe is what they said. So they did explore a lot of angles. He's never been caught, so we don't know what he did or what he does. So that's the second part of the book. Because she died before she could finish the book, a lot of the parts of the book are reconstructed or kind of put together from her notes, but it's still very complete and feels like a really full, complete book. So moving on to part 3, that was really Michelle piecing everything together. So the part 3, it was put together by the researchers on her team, and they kind of put a list together of the information that she had, the items that she had written down, just notes that she had on her computer about him, different ideas that she wanted to explore. So this part of the book is less like just like you're reading a regular book, but it does give a lot of information, which is still really interesting. And then in that part 2, they do talk about ideas that she had for trying to figure out who he was. They talked about geo-profiling. So they talk about the idea of a buffer zone. Serial killers don't kill within a certain mile radius from their home because they're more likely to be recognized. So they talk about using that to try to find out where he lived, especially based on all the areas that he attacked women. So it's very interesting. They believe, some of the researchers did the geoprofiling, and they believe that he lived in between Carmichael and Fair Oaks. If you're not familiar with the Sacramento area is, you might not know what that is, but really easy to Google that, or in the book they have several maps at the end that kind of show how they did the geoprofiling to kind of figure out that's maybe where he was from. She also is exploring the idea of familial DNA. So they've never gotten a hit in CODIS for the East Area Rapist, the Golden State Killer. So the familial DNA, things like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, she talked about the possibility of finding a family member and in that way finding him. But there are so many privacy issues with these companies. I've used 23andMe and a lot of people that do, and that information is not something that they would freely give. So that's something that she did talk about though, but she understood that the privacy issues were there, but it's something that she talked about. So that is what I'm going to tell you about the book. It's a lot of information because, like I said, it's a true crime. It's not just a fiction book. I feel like there's a lot more that I can tell you because you may already know about the serial killer, the case, and all of that. So the fourth question is the book a part of a series? So no, this is just a single book. As I said, she passed away before she could finish it, but she did write a feature for the Los Angeles magazine, Los Angeles Time magazine, and it was called In the Footsteps of a Killer, and that was March of 2013, and it was kind of the basis for the book, and it was just all about him, what she knew at the time, which this book compiles a lot more of what she ended up learning. So the fifth question is, has a movie been made of the book? So there's no movie. I tried to search. I'm sure you could find like true crime shows that have explored that. Like I said, I've heard about it from podcasts, also seen it on crime shows, so you'll find bits and pieces, but not like a feature film about it. And then one thing I wanted to mention, so the original Night Stalker term that was coined to him, along with the East Area Rapist, the Golden State Killer, the original Night Stalker came from one of the detectives, because there is a Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, who was active in the 1980s. He was caught, and I'm also familiar with him because I've read about him, heard about him on my podcast, but they termed him the Night Stalker, but then later termed the East Area Rapist the original Night Stalker because he was active previously to the Night Stalker. So just kind of random if you wanted to know where that came from. But that's really what I wanted to tell you about the book. I felt that it was really well written, even with it being pieced together from her notes, her not being able to finish it the way that she wanted to. I felt like her research team, Pat and Oswald, did a really good job of putting everything together. Even being familiar with the crimes, with the killer, with rapist, I was blown away reading the book. It was just put me in this just space where you're reading it and you're just frightened, even though you know the story. It's just so, thinking of him not being caught and all the things that he did. So I felt like it was written really well, and even if you know it, you will learn something new. Unless you're doing as much research as Michelle was, you would learn a lot of new things that I didn't know about the suspects that they had, how they ruled them out, the locations that they went to, some other, the crimes that weren't officially linked to him. I just learned a lot more than I didn't know before. So I really love the book. If you're a fan of true crime or you're familiar with the East Area Rapist, then you will enjoy reading the book, and especially knowing that she died before she could finish it. At the end, Patton also writes the afterword, and it's just really emotional. I did cry a little bit. I'm a crier, but it was just really nice to hear him talk about her and how much passion she had for trying to find out who he was, and it was just really nice to read that, especially knowing how much research she did, right? You learn about that throughout the book, and then at the end to read what he says about her and how much time she took out of her life with her family to do this. It just shows that she was really dedicated and really passionate about finding out who he was. So I really enjoyed it. Please read it. They have the hardback. I don't know if they have a paperback, but you can also get it online, like a book for your iPad or for your Kindle, and I believe they have the audio version of it as well. I prefer to read physical books, but they have all of that, so search it and read it and you'll love it. One more thing that I wanted to kind of read before I sign off is something that she said that kind of really hits home, and the reason why I love true crime and am obsessed with murder podcasts, murder everything. So I wanted to read this. She wrote this in the book, so I wanted to read this and just kind of, I'm sure this resonates to a lot of you that are into true crime. Read you what it says here. Violent fantasy advances to mental rehearsal. He memorizes a script and refines methods. He's the maltreated hero in the story. Staring up at him anguish-eyed is a rotating cast of terrified faces. His distorted belief system operates around a central vampiric tenet. His feeling of inadequacy is vanquished when he exerts complete power over a victim. When his actions elicit in her an expression of helplessness, it's look he recognizes and hates in himself. So this is something that really hits home to me. The reason that I love the true crime, murder, everything, is wanting to find out why. The why behind the crime, the why behind the criminal. So trying to profile him was something that seemed impossible. Trying to understand his motives, trying to figure out why he did it, right? That's how a lot of these criminals are caught, but he's never been caught. And what she said here about him, it's just, that's the reason that I love the true crime genre, is wanting to find out why, the psychological reasons behind why someone does something. So I really love that part of the book, so I wanted to read that to you guys. But I do thank you guys for watching my book review for March. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you check it out. It's amazing, and I'm really glad that they got to finish it, even though she passed away before she could finish the book. So if you enjoyed the review, go ahead and get this book, but of course feel free to subscribe. I will do more book reviews. Of course I have other videos, and feel free to like the video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to comment down below if you read the book, familiar with the crime, just if you want to just talk about it. I would love to hear from you, and I hope that you guys come back and check out my other videos. Thanks.